All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our special webinar today. We are super excited to have Corey Barrier here from Who Hire and get to learn about his deep experiences in recruiting for the trades. Without further ado, I'm excited to hand off to Corey because he has an awesome presentation prepared. We'll get into some Q&A towards the end. And it'll be a great opportunity to learn more about how you can refine your processes, and especially in the labor shortage that we all are in right now, how you can really accelerate your impact every day. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Corey, who will kick us off.
Thanks, Shelby. All right. So, thanks everybody for coming in today. I'm super excited about sharing this information with you. I mean, look, this is one of the biggest problems in the industry, right? The labor shortage is a real thing, and we've all felt it. So, cracking the human code. That's the name of the presentation. Let me get here. So, people are unique, but they are predictably unique. The CEO of Who Hire is Jonathan Wisman, and he wrote the book The Sales Boss, which is an amazing book. And I would highly suggest anybody going to check that out if you're trying to build an organization, sales organization for sure. The valuation of your business is directly tied to the quality of your people. That's why we have a labor shortage, right? Because people keep leaving and going to other places, so on and so forth. The single most important system in your business is the one for identifying, recruiting, hiring, and training the team. And I won't hit you with any more of his quotes. Okay, so AI. AI is a buzzword. Everybody's heard about AI, but there's a lot of things that AI does that is amazing, and a lot of people hear negative stuff about AI, and so hopefully today I'm going to clear some of that stuff up for you and give you a better perspective of what AI can do inside of your business. So this is a picture you can see here. It's an airplane. You're looking down from the airplane at God knows how many feet up. Well, when you're on the ground, you can see everything like normal, but when you're up in the air, you see everything really small. You can see the fields, you can see cornfields, you can see grass. And so the reason I show you this picture is because this is what AI is doing. AI looks down on millions and millions of different data points and can summarize all that stuff, unlike what a human being can do. So it's really just math, and that's really what AI is, math. So the largest ever research studied quantifying performance DNA of the trades using actual field results with the goal of being able to predict pre-hire how someone will perform. Um, can we use data analytics and artificial intelligence to improve hiring outcomes? The answer to that is yes, and we're going to get into that now. So if you look here, this is at a high level. Performance predictors. These are all the things that make up your employees. These are all the things that we test for in our predictive model. And if you could look, I mean, there's so many pieces of data that comes out of these 450 traits that predict how a person's going to perform, how long they're going to stay in the organization. And you can imagine if you could have all this data, which would be humanly impossible to have if you didn't have this predictive model, you could make better hiring decisions. So this is our psychographic data, performance fingerprint. So these are the things that we look at to tell you as the business owner how a person is going to perform inside of your business before they ever get hired. So if you look at some things here like intention to quit, I mentioned us being able to predict flight risk. Wouldn't you like to know if the person that you're hiring has an intention to start their own business? Or look at all of the different traits that we measure. And again, this will tell you by the prediction model that we have will tell you how they're going to perform once they become an employee of yours. So we then match those traits that I just showed you here to actual, we've matched it to actual performance data from the field. Um, and the way we do that is, well, this is for a sales rep. So you could fill in the blank with service technician, CSR, comfort advisor, technician, any role in your company that has a high turnover rate. And so what we do is whenever you post a job on Indeed or wherever you're posting your jobs, even on your website for that matter, they the employee goes through the employee goes through a 10 to 15-minute assessment. And what we're looking at is are these traits. And these traits are what we've discovered to be the most important for a sales rep. So you can see, there's different percentage points here. But this individual has an 85% chance of being a high performer and a 17% chance of being a flight risk. This is the kind of guy that you want to bring onto your team. Um, okay, so psychographic profile of a high performing sales rep. And again, we just use sales rep as an example here. You can fill in the blank with any of those other jobs that I mentioned. If you look at all of the things in bold letters here, these are all the traits that make up a high performing sales rep. And again, it would be the same if it would be the same if we plugged in service technician or CSR or again, fill in the blank. And so wouldn't it be amazing to know that the person that you're bringing in possesses all of these traits? So when you're recruiting, what I want you to think about when you're sitting down with the employee, a lot of times, and I've seen this happen time and time again, you're in a rush, you're busy, you're wearing several hats in the company, and you go, oh crap, it's 2:14. I've got an interview in 1 minute. Let me rush and read through the resume so I can interview this individual. But what I'd like for you to think about is switching your mindset with that. If you had to write a $500,000 check every single time you said yes to an interviewee or an applicant, you'd think twice about rushing through that interview. And really, if you think about a service technician, they're going to be worth a $500,000 or more to your business. So I just want you to think about whenever you're sitting down and you're interviewing people, it's a serious thing. And it's serious for you to be successful in your business. Um, so your job is to keep imposters off the team. The single most important decision you're going to make is hiring that employee or not hiring that employee. And so what we've done at Who Hires, we now rely on data opposed to that gut instinct or intuition. We've all hired people that that interview well and look good on paper, but once they get the job, things go sideways. And so we've not eliminated bad decisions, but we've made it very easy through that data, the data points that I shared earlier, to make a better hiring decision. And so the fourth one here is have a drop dead date, meaning if I hire John to be a service technician, I need to have a very clear, John needs to have a very clear understanding that in 90 days, if he's not performing at a certain level, a percentage of bringing in a certain amount every month or every week, then there's a clear decision that'll be made. And that means he's just not going to work for you anymore if he doesn't hit those data points. And okay, so the next one is job posting and advertisement. Know the person that you're advertising to. Think about A lot of folks, when they do job postings, it's more they're describing the job and opposed to how does it make me feel if I'm applying for that job? Is it talking about, I'll just use this as a crazy example. We're looking for somebody that, enjoys hunting and fishing and goes to the lake on the weekends and, fill in the blank. Right. So then if I'm a hunter and a fisherman, so to speak, and again, just using this as a crazy example, then that job posting is going to stick out to me. Maybe I'm not even in the industry, but I see that job posting where it says we hire people that like hunting and fishing. And maybe I like hunting and fishing, and maybe I'm a mechanic. And I think, well, maybe I should check out this company because they hire people that are just like me. So know your avatar, know the person that you really want to bring onto your team. And so I kind of went into that second one. Describe the person, not the role. Um, yeah, just describe the person that you're looking at. The third one is compensation, and I get pushback on this lots of times, but you never want to advertise 100% commission because what that tells the applicant is we're not totally confident that you're going to do well in this role. We're not totally confident that our systems and processes are going to make sure you're successful. So we want you to take all the risk. We're going to take a little bit of the risk. You're going to take a lot of the risk. And so in that job posting, and I see this a lot, people say, well, you can earn up to $250,000 a year, opposed to saying you must earn $250,000 or you won't work here. And you see the difference in how that sounds. One is ambiguous that you can earn up to $250,000. That feels like it's incongruent. It feels like something's not quite right with that. And so you're going to not attract as many people saying you can earn up to, opposed to saying you must earn this amount of money or you won't be working here, in simple terms. So as the HR person or the owner, you want to have a strong vision and a standard for performance. And back to what I was saying earlier, if you clearly state like these are the in 90 days, if your performance is not here, I like you, I think you're a great person, but we're going to move on and you're not going to work here anymore. And it's just being very confident when you say that because that person knows that you mean business. They know that this is a business relationship, not a friend relationship. So speed and clarity on the process, on what the process will be, automated, not human. Because you might think, well, Corey, if this is a lot of automation, maybe it doesn't feel human, but we've taken that the automation side of it and made it very human. So think about Uber. If you call Uber, you can track how quickly Uber's coming to your house. Right now, or DoorDash for that matter. If you order a sub from wherever, when that sub's going to get to your front door because you can track the driver. And uh, right now, if you're not using this platform, then you're not really able to track that individual, that applicant's not able to track where they're at in the process. And so we've made that very simple for, in terms of the communication with the applicant, friendly and mobile. They can check it on their phone. And there's always next steps. And the automations, which I'll get into in a second, are it makes look. I'm a lot like a lot of folks in the trades. I have ADHD. And I think checklist or maybe check it off the list. This allows you to kind of set it and forget it. And what I mean by that is you go into this today, and it tells you exactly what next steps you need to make if there's not an automation set up for that. So in the interview, you want to find somebody that's happy but discontent with where they are. What I mean by that is that they wake up happy every day, they're in a good mood, but they're just not totally happy with maybe how much money they're making, and they want more out of life. So BOSS stands for uh, the acronym in sales stands for behavior, outcomes, skills, and systems. Have they done the behavior? Are you hiring someone that's going to go into the home and talk to customers that have done that before? Or are you hiring someone that's maybe done inside sales that has never been into a home? Those two people are going to be very different. And if you don't know, if you don't find that out in the interview, then you're going to have a mess on your hands. And so they may have a great history closing deals over the phone, but they've never been into a house. And that's going to obviously it's going to be a problem. So answers don't matter. Mental flexibility, composure. How does that person handle pressure? How does that person handle, coaching, constructive feedback? And that stuff is important because people, are different. Humans are very unique when it comes to especially managing humans. That's for sure. So this is our job blueprint. I showed you a little bit about this earlier. So this is the information that we collect from this guy here, whoever it is, right? 85% performance. He's going to do, it's predicting that he's going to be an 85% high performer and a 20% low flight risk. Attention. So Who Hire automates all the postings to your job boards. We write the job descriptions for you. There's opportunities in there that if you don't like the way it says, the way it's written, you can change it. It's got a bunch of different options in there if you want to make it shorter, if you want to make it longer, more descriptive, so on and so forth. And then inside of the platform, we have dynamic texting. What that means is the texts are automated. So when an employee applies for a job and they take we call it the Reggie blueprint, um, they get a text message saying, "Hey, great, Joe. Glad that you filled out the blueprint or the Reggie blueprint. I don't know exactly what it says, but something along those lines. We've decided you should go to the next step. Here's the next step." And so with that, all this scoring is done completely automated. All the scheduling, interview scheduling is done automated. We have one-way video interviews. What that means is, like the example I gave a second ago, they fill out that first 10 to 15-minute questionnaire. It says, decided if you're still interested in the job, could you just turn your camera on and answer this question or these couple of questions? And it's not a lot. And so what this does is it really breaks down the hiring process, and you don't have to do any of that stuff. And so it really saves you the headache of, posting the job ad, going to Indeed and pulling that information, reviewing the resume. Of course, you have all that information. And then the mind numbing, tasks of texting back and forth with that individual to get them on the schedule, answering questions, getting to know them. All that stuff's done in a very humanistic, automated way. And that is the end of the slides.
That was awesome. Well, this is a great segue into some of the questions that we have, which is just thinking about, coming back to that point, some of these numbers that you've shared with me in the past are just staggering, which is like, what is the cost when an employee leaves a company? These decisions are really important. And understanding the cost of that is maybe something that more of us should be thinking about. But retention is the most valuable thing to a company because you invest so much in training. So I'm curious if you've seen any stats around like what is the cost when an employee leaves?
Great question, Shelby. It's a staggering number. So if you've got an individual that's making $100,000 a year, we'll just use that number. It costs you about $50,000 in training, in recruiting, in loss of customers, loss of revenue for those customers. the average is about 50% of that individual's salary every year. So if you do the math, I did a post on this the other day. If you take one CSR averaging $60,000 a year, a service tech that averages $100,000 a year, and then you take I can't remember the third one I used, but let's just use a comfort advisor that averages $150,000 a year. I don't know if I did those numbers right, and I can't do it right now. You just take half of those three things up, and I don't know about you, but I know every company out there is hiring for those three jobs at least once a year. That's about 150 grand just for those three jobs. Heaven forbid you have to do it two, three, four, 5 times.
Absolutely. And I think for many companies, the average time period that somebody's at their company is 2 years. I'm sure that might even be shorter in the trades than it is across industries, and that is staggering. I'm curious. I mean, one of the things you mentioned is that there's going to be different factors, different attributes of people that make them better suited for maybe being a sales team member, maybe being a technician. So we think about like maybe these three roles. Let's go with like CSR, comfort advisor, and like a service tech. What have you found as being really important for each one of those roles for that to look like and for the key attributes of them to be?
So I couldn't list those all for you, but here's what I can tell you. So, and I didn't mention this. I probably should have. We've taken thousands and thousands of people in the field over the last, well, for the trades, it's been over the last, I guess, year. And we've had the people in the field take these assessments, a lot longer assessment than a 15-minute assessment. It was an hour, hour and a half, something along those lines. Then we took those real people's information. We had the managers look at how they answered the questions. Then we took all that data and put it into our system. And that's how we come up with the output based on their performance and their answers. So I can't tell you the exact attributes that we're looking for per person. However, there our job blueprints can tell you exactly what we're looking for. But that would be a lot of data for me to spit out right now.
It'd be a lot and very impressive if you could do that by memory. Um, I guess on that note, like, how do you think about finding somebody who will actually stay over time? Like, what are some of the common elements across maybe all of those roles about what's going to drive their retention? I've heard different things from different business owners being like, I look for I look for people who have spent years at a company beforehand, and that when I ask them why they left, there's a reason that seems like very logical. But I am curious if there are other patterns you've observed in that data and information.
Well, so if you think about, so everything is data driven with us, and so we don't really rely on necessarily what the person says or what the person um, even what their resume says. To be honest with you, we rely on the human data that we've compiled from all of these companies that we've worked with one on one. So we've looked at about 6,000 employees over all the positions in the trades, and that's how we came up with these prediction models. And so, how you answer questions, we put that through the model, and then it spits out what are the chances of this person leaving, what are the chances of this person, what is their flight risk score, what is their performance score, and I'll tell you, we can we did the same prediction model for Tommy Mello and his team at A1 Garage, and so we can predict even how much money that technician's going to make for the company before they're ever hired. I don't know if that necessarily answered your direct question, but
Well, now I want to know, how can you predict that? That's incredible.
well, so we took so again we gave about 6,000 different people, human beings inside of real organizations this longer assessment than the one I mentioned earlier, and we took all that data and put it in our machine learning model, and it spits out these predictions of, well, what the real humans are saying. I mean, measuring, and that's why I say, like, if you think about AI, we're using real human data to predict how this person is going to perform in the role, because we're matching it up against the top performers, so to speak. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and it's super interesting because I always think about like, okay, the top performers, are there common elements of those top performers? Like, obviously, we need AI tools or other forms of technology to help us figure that out about a given person. But are there common elements that you've seen in the data that like point to somebody being, okay, this type of person is going to be a really high performer in the future? And I'm sure that 10 to 15 minutes interview can actually powerfully determine that. But are there things that you're testing for that you're looking for that help determine whether they're going to retain and be that top earner?
Yes, and I'm gonna share this slide again with you because this will give me a bit better idea of how to show you. So if you look right here, out of those 400 and some odd data points, these are the traits, right? Let me let me do this so you don't have to look at all the slides. So if you look at these traits right here, this is what we found to be the most important for a sales rep candidate, so to speak. And so it would be different for a service technician. It would be different for a CSR, but just imagine if we just plugged in CSR here, and then it would give us those traits that make up the high performer and a low flight risk. Does that make sense?
That's super interesting. And I
Okay.
guess looking at this, it's what you're looking for is you're looking for like intrinsic skills. You're looking for what is this person really good at? What are they really exceptional at? And I guess I'm curious, so you're relying on that basic foundations. As you think about like making these hires, I think a big piece of that is actually just looking for that and assuming that maybe you're going to train or provide them the skills to do that job fully. I'm curious how that filters in here. And then also, how you think about, I know this is sort of outside of what you think about day to day, but at the same time, I know you're always thinking about the full industry, which is how do you think about the training methods that are going to be effective thereafter? If you're selecting mostly in this candidate questionnaire, you're thinking about the like attributes of that person and what is true about them, not necessarily true about their experience. So I'm just curious how you couple this and think about like the training that comes after that.
So it's a great question. So one of the, so our and I don't have a slide to show you this, but our Reggie blueprint is made up of four pieces: role potential. Um, man, I am like drawing a blank on the four things because I say that anyhow. So it's made up of four things, and one of those things is how it's called a Go Ready test. That actually stands for the G. What that means is companies can customize that piece of the questionnaire to where they can put pictures in terms of what their experience is like. So here's an example: if you wanted to know, let's just say you're a ream dealer, hypothetically. I don't know why I chose ream, but just to say you're a ream dealer and you are strictly a ream dealer and you want to hire somebody that understands how to sell ream products. That could be one of your questions on the Go Ready test and specifics around that particular product. And that can be customized for each and every company around whatever it is they think is important. So keep in mind, too, when we talk to when we bring companies on, they're telling us what they think is important to that company, whether it's what fits in their culture, whether they're hiring for someone that let's just say they need to fill a truck or they need to fill five trucks because it's the middle of the summer and they've got five people that hypothetically just quit and they need to fill five positions. Well, in that situation, their output of answers are going to be different than if we ran a test for an apprentice program, right? Because an apprentice is not going to have enough skills to be ready to get into a truck immediately. And so we can adjust our Reggie blueprint to show we can adjust the Reggie blueprint really at the it takes 2 seconds for whatever you're hiring for. So again, let's say you're filling up an apprentice program, then you wouldn't want them to you wouldn't have people applying for that position that has a lot of experience because they wouldn't need to be in an apprentice program, and vice versa. If you were hiring someone that needed to be in the truck today, does that make sense? So you can base the training on whatever their answers are, but it's all specific to the job that you're posting. That makes
Absolutely.
sense. Does that help at all?
Yeah. And I guess if you think about like business owners who might be taking this purely from a like, let me look for the soft skills, let me look for those experiences that, or that not so much the experience, but looking primarily just as the scorecard on the screen shows.
Oh, let me pull it back
No, no,
up.
no,
All
you're
right.
good, you're good.
Okay.
But I'm curious if you've seen any organizations then hire these people and then what their on the job training looks like to maximize the impact that they have inside their role and get up to speed quickly. Because I think part of this is like you hire the right people, then you equip those right people. And how have you seen companies do this really well? I'm sure you have so many customers that are very happy and have thought about like, okay, I've hired these people, your results actually only look so good if they can actually hit the ground running. And so I'm sure this is something that you think about too, which is like, what are you seeing as the best practices for training and upskilling once the right people are brought in?
Well, I think it depends on what you're training for, right? You could have someone who is, again, like an apprentice that you are willing to put, the next year into to training that individual and getting them up to speed the way you want to get them up to speed. Hypothetically, let's just say that you hired somebody from outside the industry, then you would know when that person is entering your organization exactly how much training they're going to need based on their experience, so on and so forth, of how they answered those questions. And so you can really, if you think about all of the data that we provide, you can tailor that training to where it's going to be best suited for that individual, whether it be an apprentice or whether it be somebody that's got experience. So I think the training depends on how that person, how the company has, what the company's looking for, uh, whether they're trying to fill a role that needs training or whether they need to fill a role that doesn't need training. And I think it just depends on what they're looking for.
I think that's amazing. And you're right. It does vary based off of what that team actually needs and thinking about like what needs to be customized there. So on that note, I mean, retention. We talked a little bit about hiring. We talked a little bit about training. Next piece is retention. What are you seeing amazing companies do to help keep that retention? Because there's both hiring for the right thing, and then there's still, once you hire for the right thing, that's not enough. You still need to like create a great working environment, absolutely. But are there things that you see that are more likely to drive that retention among the companies that you get to work with every day?
Yeah, I mean, and this is probably a fairly common answer. I don't know how common it is, but company culture is a massive driver to why people stay. People will stay in a company because of the culture way quicker than they'll jump ship for an extra dollar or $2 an hour. The money, a lot of people believe that the money is the most important, but the truth of the matter is we're working with human beings, and human beings have a need that they want to feel important. And if you're not making your employees feel important, and you do that in various different ways. Maybe it's just that you pull your employee to the side and just ask them how they're doing. But if you're not giving some sort of one-on-one human interaction with your employees, or if you've got a massive organization and you're the owner, you can't you can't spend time with every single employee, then you got to have people on your team that you trust that will spend time with those people. And I think it's important to take an interest in what people want. You know, one of the things that I've seen big companies do, or successful companies, I should say, is they ask the employees, what is it that you want? Is it that you want to buy a house? Do you want to get married? Do you want to? I mean, it sound like very personal questions, but if you can get that employee to explain what it is their dream is, what it is they want from this job, It makes it real and it gives them an opportunity to work towards that common goal. And as the owner, if I know that, and let's say we're 6 months down the road and maybe you've hit a slump, it would be easy conversation to say, how are we doing towards that house payment or that down payment on the house? Or how are we looking? It looks like your numbers are a bit down. You know, how are we going to make up for that to get to that house goal or that marriage goal, whatever the goal is, by the end of the year? Because Mr. Employee, that you wanted to buy a house by the end of the year, and as we did the numbers, you need to make X number of dollars every month. And over the last few months, you dropped down from that. How are we going to make that up so you get to the thing that you're looking for, whether that be a house or whatever it is? And so it really makes it very real to that employee, and it helps them to know that you care about them. And the truth of the matter is, as sappy as this may sound, sometimes we just want to know that people care. And it's not all about the money. The money is important, but you also have to treat people like human beings.
I love that. And it's so true, right? Like if your employees don't know that you care or don't know you're not plugged into what really motivates them, you might miss out on some real opportunities to both retain them, but also to make them more fulfilled in their lives and their careers because we all spend so many hours, especially in the trades, so many hours a week at work, especially in the trades in the summer if you're in HVAC, that you can't not enjoy it, and that I think that that culture makes a huge difference. So, paying attention to that and investing in that continuously is so valuable. So
Well,
with that, oh yes,
I was just going to say, and having empathy, like you mentioned, it's the middle of the summer. Like these guys are in attics that are 140 degrees. Like that's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I mean, nobody, I don't think, would disagree with that. So, you make sure that they have water. Like you just got to think about how your employees are feeling when they're on the job. Because if they're not feeling appreciated, guess what? They're going to get in and out of that attic as quickly as possible, do the least amount of work that they can do just to move on to get back in that van to get to the next job so they can stay cool. So empathy, I think, is very important in this season that we're in right now, for sure.
absolutely, especially for the folks who are right now in hurricane territory and managing all kinds of, frankly, weather nonsense that are not the fun kinds at all. So it is a hectic time every time, and it's just patience as well is so valuable. So, with that, those are my questions for you. Any concluding thoughts that you want to pass on to the audience and to those listening in that you want to make sure that they take away? Like, if there's one thing they had to take away from this and their hiring processes, what would it be?
You don't have to keep struggling with it. There's an easier and faster way to do your hiring. And this today, if they book a call on the link that's in the comment, um, we will their setup fee as long as they book the call today. And you don't have to get on the call today. In fact, it's probably not going to definitely not going to happen to get on a call today. But if you go and book the call today, then we'll waive that setup fee and we'll give everybody that is on this call white glove treatment. We'll make sure that everything is done with complete care, obviously. Um, and we'll specifically make sure that the job ads are exactly the way you want them. And we'll spend some extra time with those people because they're coming from this call.
I love it. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Corey, for the time today. Thank you for sharing your insights. And we appreciate all of you who joined in today. We'll be sharing the